It is exactly 5 o'clock, so we will call the meeting to order. And I will lead us again in the pledge unless we have a volunteer. Kurt, why don't you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we get started, just a couple of quick notes for everybody in the room. There's pizza and water, some snacks. Please help yourselves. Very informal process, and we'll just get into it in just a second. I do want to excuse Kelly, at least temporarily. She's going to be delayed getting here tonight, dealing with a situation, so we may get her in time and we may not, and if we don't, I'll brief her on what happens. So, everybody ready to go?
Yep.
All right. First item on the agenda is the Parks and Rec budget, which is really in two places. The first is on page D128. I want to welcome Sandy and Terry and Daphne. Thank you for coming. Catherine, you going to be able to catch us up? Okay. We're going to take just a second. She's going to put the page up on the screen for those watching at home.
Over your shoulder.
So for those of you that have been through this process before, you're familiar with it. The first few pages are just a description of the work that they're doing in the Parks and Rec Department. I'll repeat what I've said a couple times from my perspective. I hear nothing but great things about the programming you guys are doing. The public supports the programs you do. I'm generally very happy about the mix that you're using. And anybody that's ever attended one, I've never heard a complaint. So, and then this portion of the budget is just the director's salary on page D130. That's pretty self-explanatory. Probably the meat and potatoes of the Park and Rec budget is on page F17, starts there, which is the more detail on the expected revenue for the programming and the expenses that go with it. I know that that's technically not on our agenda tonight, but I'm comfortable after having reviewed also Thursday's agenda that if you have anything you guys want to point out specifically tonight, you can. And if there are any questions tonight, we can ask them, get them out of the way. And if we have ones that we need more information on, we can have you back on Thursday as well. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can I take about 1 minute and just reiterate what has happened to the Parks and Recreation Department over the last week?
Yes, please do. And by the way, you don't need my permission for taking it.
I'll get used to that. It'll take me some time. By now, everyone here at this table should have received a communication from me related to a restructuring of the Parks and Recreation Department. The director, Christine Vincent, has moved on to other opportunities, and it required us to look at what the Parks and Recreation was doing and how we can continue to do what they do in the way that they so very well do it. So late last week, Thursday specifically, we sat down and formulated a plan. And Sandy Yost, who handles our human services, youth services, senior services, social services, there's really two Parks and Recreation operating models that I've seen across the state. One is the one Granby uses, and the other one is the continuum, where youth, Parks and Rec, senior, over within a social service umbrella works. So we are temporarily moving to that model through June 30th really as a way to give the folks in Parks and Recreation, specifically Terry, Daphne, and Jamie, the opportunity to work closely with Sandy, and Sandy will have the opportunity to see their organization. They're very similar. That'll also give us an opportunity to weigh the costs of the organization and be sure that, again, we're putting our best foot forward. So I don't want to spend a lot of time detailing it, other than to say we've had a change in personnel, we've had a change in structure. That's not or that is a unique situation, so I just wanted to comment on it in case anybody had any questions.
All right, folks around the table, any questions on that or either portion of the budget? It's not always this easy.
Wait till you get the microphone.
Go ahead.
And that if you note where youth sport clinics, so we're on F-171, youth
Okay.
sport clinics and youth activities. You'll see that for youth sport clinics, it's down 31.5%, and the youth activities is up by 38%. That is a result of just miscoding when the programs were entered into our computer. And so just wanted to clarify that. We will give the numbers to Kimmy to have those corrected. Just wanted to make note of that.
All right, thank you.
And then adult activities, there is a decrease in what was adopted to year-to-date versus what we took in fiscal year 22-23. And that is driven a lot by the dog training. During COVID and right after COVID, a lot of people adopted puppies, and she had a lot of classes, and they've since kind of dwindled because now the dogs are older and they don't require training. But that kind of factors into why that number is down from what was projected.
As well as we have several adult programs that run from now to the end of the fiscal year. So that's money that really could kind of come in, but just those programs they haven't run yet.
I have a dog that if I entered in the program, you might single-handedly get your revenues back on.
And then the big difference with youth sports with additional travel.
Okay, well, you know that more.
All right, any other questions? Going once?
Just
Yep, go ahead.
overview type of thing. Have we seen like youth activities at the park during the summer back to like pre-COVID levels or even better than that?
I would say in some of our programs better than,
Okay.
especially like day camp. We typically have waiting lists, so,
Okay.
yeah.
And then you had mentioned so travel basketball was kind of incorporated.
Right, so travel's part of our youth basketball. We have now rec, and now we're also running travel. So that brought in a bunch of other revenue because we were collecting all the fees.
Okay.
But we were also paying, for the refs and.
Okay. And it's going well? I coached it for many years.
Yeah, it's gone well. We're meeting in a couple of days
Yeah.
to kind of do a wrap up of how it went, but
Good.
it was pretty smooth.
Good.
All right, well, if there aren't any other questions, please get some pizza. You're welcome to stay, kind of see how it goes. Notwithstanding all that, I think if you guys can come back Thursday, you should, because it's not just this. We'll be discussing the capital budget, and I know you guys have some key items in there that you care about, so there may be questions related to that. So, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Sandy, you're still up.
Yay.
D125.
So hello, I've been introduced already. I'm Sandra Yost, I'm Director of Human Services, Senior Center, Youth Services, and Social Services. I have a little handout for everybody, just a quick recap. I'm not going to read through it, but if you wanted a little bit of information, additional information, it's here for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Just very brief. Come on, Scott.
Thank you.
And Homer.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Do I have one? So I'm here tonight representing departments which enhance the quality of life for our residents. These combined departments provide opportunities for continued health, including mental health, learning, and social connections. Life is good in Granby. Our residents enjoy the benefits of robust options to participate in community events at every age. The programs, events, classes, and activities are primarily paid for by the people utilizing that service. Direct services to residents utilizing social services, senior center, senior transportation, and the YSB are largely covered by grant funding, donations, and fee-for-service. So if you wanted to go through my budget line items. So you will see an increase in the part-time positions. And it's because I'm trying to make our rates a little bit more competitive for the surrounding area. The average rate of pay for a senior van driver is $18 to $22 an hour. Our current rate for our drivers is $18 an hour, so I'm looking to improve that rate over time. In Connecticut, our marriage and family therapists average between $38 to $45 an hour. Granby's current rate is $30 an hour. So for us, we do participate with Central Connecticut State University in their marriage and family therapy program. We take advantage of that program because it brings to us intern candidates who are doing their internships with us. That does help us serve additional clients at no cost. And then if we are fortunate enough and have the money in the budget, we do extend them an opportunity to stay on with us. We do tend to see a bit of a higher turnover in that staff because once they have collected enough hours for their licensure, they say thank you very much and then they head off to another opportunity. So if we can increase that rate of pay even slightly, that's going to help us to retain staff for a little bit longer over time. We're also seeing an increase right now in the Youth Service Bureau. Our Juvenile Review Board, it's a diversion program. Over time, we haven't had very many referrals for our JRB. You can see, the past few years, it's been very small, a couple of years, it's not a big deal. However, we are going to see a difference because the juvenile justice system used to handle truancy cases. They have now decided that those are going to be diverted to the youth service bureaus. So that's going to take an increase in time to handle those cases. Having the staff there to be able to do that is going to be helpful. The next thing is in office supplies. I did ask for an increase in my office supply budget, primarily to purchase a sit-to-stand desk for our administrative assistant. When our residents, primarily our seniors, come in to visit us, they stop in at our reception desk. It is a window. She sits below the window. And when they're trying to interact, she's not at eye level. So this will enhance her ability to help them register for any classes or activities. She'll be able to stand up and meet them eye to eye. It's easier for them to be able to hear and see. So thought that would increase our customer service at that point. In staff training, there is a reduction there. That's because there are more opportunities now for online training, so we're utilizing more online services such as Zoom. So we're not seeing that we have to, and that reduces those travel costs. The next big one is in kitchen supplies. As you may know, we secured a steep grant to enable us to do a renovation on our current kitchen. Because we'll have improved sanitation, we will be able to use reusable dinnerware as opposed to disposable. So the increase there is to make the purchase of dinnerware items so that we can reuse those, which will reduce the waste that we are currently seeing with disposable items. You will see a slight reduction in lifelong learning and luncheons and trips. That's because we have had success with our travel program through Colette Tours, where we're receiving a commission. So I decided that we would be able to use some of those funds to offset those costs. We're doing a better job of using corporate sponsorship or business sponsorship from senior serving agencies that will help support us in some of our special events, and also taking advantage of short-term grant opportunities to fund some of our lifelong learning programs.
Sure, I'll stop and ask you a question. The senior trips, van trips, I see you're anticipating an increase. Would that be additional drivers to support that, assuming it's the same number of vans?
Not at this time. What I did, I changed the model that we use for our senior van drivers. I had them at a regularly scheduled 25 hours per week. Now I'm using them more as an on-demand. So they are up to 20 hours a week instead. So I have been having some cost savings there because if they're not on the road, they're not being paid. So I've changed that model. So right now I do have it in the budget where I'll be able to accommodate those hours.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mike? Either Mike?
No, sir.
I just want to reiterate what I think you said, so I'll ask it in terms of question. In terms of the increase in part-time salaries, the bulk of that is in counseling, right? Because you mentioned both drivers and the counselors, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think included in that as well is I do have a very part-time food preparer. They're here a total of about 7 hours a week. With the improved kitchen facilities, I do anticipate that I can work on adding another day to our meal service.
But the bulk of that is
The
in the
bulk of
counseling.
that is in counseling.
And that makes good sense to me, given the increased need our community is feeling in those areas. All right. Any other questions?
I have one question.
Certainly.
I heard from folks who go to the men's breakfast that they can't cook their own like they did before. Food has to be brought in, is that correct?
That is not correct.
Not correct.
No, they are still preparing on site. They are still preparing on site, yes.
They are.
Yes. What I did require is that they had to have somebody take the food safety course so that I am ensured that they're following all regulations in the kitchen.
So that's the only complication.
I can attest to it. I was there Friday and I watched them make the pancakes.
Well, I played bridge with certain people who know, that I hear them bitch about it. But apparently it's not quite
Maybe you do.
correct. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Straight them out.
All right. Any other questions? So I think what I'm going to do is take a very short break to check on Amber, because first of all, nobody warned me, don't start 15 minutes early, which is what we did. I know she has a library board meeting tonight, so I'll call her and see where she is. let's take a quick break, anybody that wants, and then Kirk will probably bring you up next, if you're okay with that.
There's enough room at the table, so.
Yeah, all right. Let's take a 5-minute break, and I'll reach out to Amber and see where she is. We'll be here in a minute or two, but we'll move us around a little bit, and we'll go into the Department of Public Works budget, which starts on page D111.
But if I can, what I'd like to do is start out with an overview of our department. Some of it we've seen in the past, but I'd like to bring it back up, and I'm not going to read every single item that's in red, but I request that you do it sometimes so you can get a better idea of some of the services that we provide. So, like you know, we have 16 full-time, 3 part-time, 3 summer helpers, and 5 transfer station attendants, but that's up and down, that's fluctuating all the time. And you can see the statistics. I can go back to 86, actually I can go back a couple more years, but basically they're the same. And you can see the percentage increase of what's happened over these number of years, and you'll see the significance of them. And just to take, 570 catch basins, we're doing 1,400 now, and that not only includes cleaning them, but there's a certain portion of them that need to be maintained, and then there's inspection services that we have to do on them as far as our MS4 guidelines.
Kirk, can I interrupt you for just 1 second? I don't have that first sheet.
This one.
That one I
Is this
don't
the
have. This
only
is
one
Sam's.
That's the one right there.
Yeah.
If you guys can share, then I might be able to make it count.
No, I'm good. I'll share it, Kenny. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll go on to road work. It's not only our overlay program, again, basins, culverts, potholes are constantly some type of challenge throughout the year. And what I'll stop saying this after this, but if you take a visual or take a ride, and if you were to drive from here to Albany, that's how many miles of road we maintain. That doesn't include parking lots, cul-de-sacs, etc. That's a straight drive, and in fact, you'd be a couple miles short of how far we go with our miles. Providence is 88 miles, we're doing 94. Buildings, I really don't have, I'd have to go through every single print to get the actual square footage, but we're in the range of 100,000 square feet that we maintain. If you broke that down, that would be an average of 40 houses. At the average size house, you'd be maintaining 40 of them. So you can see the challenge there. That's not only cleaning, but it's maintenance as well. Grounds, the town owns 134 properties that total 1,388 acres. Okay? So we do everything from soup to nuts on those, putting fertilizer, aerating, mowing, preparing for soccer, lacrosse, you name it. And we broke that down into acres. It's approximately 90 acres or 68 football fields. Equipment maintenance, we have 2 mechanics that maintain well over 70 pieces of equipment. And again, we do maintain the police vehicle, all the public works senior vans, and a few administrative cars. And that goes from string trimmers to our largest piece, which is an L9 loader, which is a 3-yard, so if you can picture that bucket in the front. Trash maintenance, we oversee all residential trash recycling service for the town. We do contract with Payne, so it's been great working with. We also oversee, and I want to pay credit to the guys in the back here, the transfer station, which has a lot of material coming in, going out, needs to be sorted, and documentation needs to be made so that Lisa can do her year-end reports as far as recycling goes. Sewer pump station, we maintain, let's say 2.5. As you know, we're upgrading the one at the Salmon Brook Park, and then there's another one to the south down by the dog pound, and then there's the other one is by DPW. So we do have regular scheduled maintenance on them. We have alarms in them. They certainly need to be upgraded, but that's something that comes along in the future. And the biggest thing with the one to the south is grease buildup. If we don't take care of that, we have problems. Some of the other projects we work on, myself, Abby, and others, we worked on the center realignment a couple of years ago. It was the roundabout. Building renovations, we're currently working on a large HVAC project for the town hall complex. Bridges, we're responsible for 20 bridges. 5, as you know, we went to bond in 2019. We're in various stages of that project. And I'm submitting some others to see where that goes. Eversource comes into town every year, every other year, depending how it works out. And we're constantly working with them for tree removal. And they've been very good also. I want to pay credit because the arborists will meet with us at locations we find of concern. And they'll take them down for us. And sometimes we take the wood away for them, but we can't get within a certain distance of the wires, so they'll take care of that. So, Catherine, can you hear me? We're going to go now to start on D11, 111. Okay, so this is an overview of what our department does, and as we go on to D113, we can see and we can talk more about some of the items in there. So if we would, please flip to 113. And there again, we'll talk more about some of these, but I will give you an overview on some of the others. These are the significant increases in our department. Payroll, it's contractual. Regular, now new hire, I want to emphasize when we say new hire, this goes back to 2010 when we had 3 retire. And so this is bringing us back to the staffing level or replacing that third person that was not replaced. Did that make sense? So that, like I said, the history goes all the way back to 2010. Payroll overtime, you see an increase in that, and that's based on previous years. Many employees are calling for many reasons. In this windstorm, we're pretty fortunate with it, really. But there have been some in the past where we're less fortunate and spend certainly a lot more time. Gasoline, we have recognized some savings over the last few years. I believe in part that maybe we estimated a little bit higher, and the other part is we haven't had such tough winters where we do burn more fuel. And you can probably hear me say it somewhere else along the line, but El Nino has played some effect, I believe, into this too. The winters aren't as bad. Diesel fuel, they're the same idea. Only the other part is the ambulance service no longer has diesel vehicles. So they're running all gas. It sounds like a little bit of a contradiction because we've still gone down in gas, but that did affect it a little bit. Fuel oil, I'll touch on that when we get into that account. Electricity and street lighting. Approximately 5 years ago, I believe it was, Kimmy, that we entered into an agreement to upgrade our lighting program. Now that's paid off, so we're seeing the benefit of that payoff. Software applications, excuse me, you'll see a slight increase there. Previous work order system that we had in place at DPW was not working as well as we wanted. We tried to incorporate our vehicle maintenance into it, but it wasn't working. So
excuse me, we not only changed the company that we were using, but we added another software that could handle the vehicle maintenance, because this is important for us to document. God forbid anybody get into an accident, but that's what they're going to do. They're going to look for when it was maintained last and what was done. Out of garage contracts, you see a cut in this line item, the savings, based on the savings that we've incurred over the last few years. But I do remember you, I think there's a note as we go further down the road. If I say it twice, I'll say it twice. So I hope this one doesn't jinx us, because we just had to send a truck out for, that's gonna be somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000. School tipping fees, you'll see an increase on that. And this is the way it works. The BOE pays for the service, and then we reimburse them by way of budget transfer. The increase is due to the contractual, it's based on SIP and the contract we have with Haynes. And while I'm on that, I'll talk a little bit. Haynes was very good to us for a few years. SIP was in the neighborhood of 7%. And Mike Payne, being the owner, he came and met with us and he said, I'm not going to do that. We're going to chop that in half. There's no way. So, waste collection for the last 2 years, we're estimated over on the number of new houses and additional cans and everything else. So I'll say we overestimated a little bit and the decrease, and that account for the upcoming year. This is why it reflects it. And also, again, SIP and agreement with Haynes. Mid-Connecticut, as we left, or to an extent, Mirror, went on with F&G. We signed into an agreement for the total of, if I guess, 5 years. And that has gone from 110 per ton to 115. D115, Catherine. Okay, so staff training, over the last few years, we were able to save some money on that because we use Yukon, it's called Technology Square, or T2 is the short, and they were given some grant money, so they were able to provide us with a lot of flagger training and actually provide us with some signs, etc. So we saved on that. But we do have several guidelines that we need to follow under the OSHA regulations. And you can see, I mentioned flagger, but also confined spaces and chainsaw safety. We do a lot, so we need to keep our guys current. And so we try to get them into anything or make sure they don't go too long without being I'll say certified, but they're not actually certified. Uniform allowance, there's a slight increase, and we have a contract with a company, so just to take, it's roughly 2%. You'll see some of that, but this also includes, we have hard hats that go out of certification. We have the guys working out there paving. I mean, they'll destroy a vest, and not intentionally, it's just the nature of it. And then we have to buy the chief a uniform.
Whoa. So you hid that in two
Making
different?
sure everybody's paying attention. All right, gasoline, I talked a little bit about.
So whose budget you want us to cut, yours or his?
So gasoline, I talked about a little bit, and diesel fuel, I talked about. Fuel oil, that account covers many things, as you see. So it's CNG, we do buy propane. Some of our, most of our generators work off of propane. And they exercise every week, so it's not like they're just sitting idle with that amount forever. Thankfully, we haven't had to use them a real lot, but they do still, nonetheless. And then a little container that goes on the fuel pump. Ground maintenance, again, is the fertilizer and seed have gone up, and A lot of this stuff came after COVID that people could charge what they want. And so in order to keep the grounds looking good, like I said, we've seen an increase in this one. Electricity and street lighting, I touched on that. And then page D116. Contracts, rentals, emergency repairs. And this is again something that I trend. And I talked a little bit about it. I hope I didn't jinx myself because we had to send that truck out. But we saw some savings that should be able to cover this in equipment maintenance, and so we're going to work it in there. Heat controls, miscellaneous service contracts. There's an increase, and that one's been a tough one. And we have 25-year plus equipment here, from burners, boilers, and not the CNG units, but a lot of the HVAC is in need of replacement. But we're working on a big project for that to renovate the town hall complex buildings. Excuse me. But there again, you can see under this account, all our fire extinguishers need to be checked, not just every month, but annually, and inspected, because some go out of date, so they either need to be replaced or refurbished in one way or another. Emergency lighting, we have to hire a subcontractor to do this. We can check them on a monthly basis, but annual we cannot. That's the way it's written. School tipping fees. I think I touched on that one, I'll say it again. The BOE pays for the dumpster fees, and then we reimburse them, and again, SIP plus 0.125. Excuse me. Waste collection, we have about 4,300 plus containers out there, and you can see the math in 7.32 times 12 months equals plus new homes and 4% and SIP. That's how we come out with that number in the budget. Recycling, we don't pay for the tonnage to be tipped, but we do pay for the containers to be picked up. We have over the years encouraged residents to recycle, and many have taken advantage of it, and they ask for additional containers. They're provided to them, but we have to pay to get them tipped. So it does cut down on our MSW or our trash, which is beneficial. And Lisa is always looking for new ideas, and we're working with Sustain Granby and some other ideas to see where we can go. So I probably should have paused as we went through the pages. Apologize for that, but if anybody has any questions before I go on to page 118.
Let's pause there before you go on. And see if there are any questions on what you've done so far.
I do.
Fire away.
All right, I'm on page 113, Kurt. Your payroll regular new hires, that's 2, correct?
I didn't divide that out, I'm sorry. Yes, so I should have wrote that down, I apologize, or I skipped over it. So the first one is the payroll regular, as we can go. And the next one is the new hire that we'd like to bring on board.
Okay, so that's 2 bodies, correct?
One body plus. One body, we're asking to bring on one body. This includes benefits and
Okay, so it's fully
everything.
loaded, one body
Fully loaded, could
Got
I
it.
put it?
Understood.
And then you see the overtime, payroll overtime. And then, yeah. I apologize, maybe I skipped over that.
Okay, let's just share for the members here, where you, Kimmy, and I looked at gasoline, diesel fuel, and fuel oil. We're locked into gasoline prices through June 30th of 2025.
Correct.
And we are floating on diesel, meaning market, for diesel fuel and fuel oil, or are we good through June 30th of this year?
We're good through June 30th of this year.
Okay. But we should take the opportunity to lock in for July 1 through June 25.
Absolutely.
If not longer.
I don't know if you'll get a company to do it, but I totally agree with you. We should lock in from July 1st to June 30th.
So what we're going to do is we're going to compare pricing from a couple of different places and the CROG bid, and we should have some decision points in the next few days.
Right, thank you.
Okay. And then my last question, do you know, certainly Paynes does yeoman's work. Do you know where they haul their trash to? Where's their transfer station?
To Albright, come on, I don't have, it's not Albright, I used to do constructions up there. Babylon, over in Suffield,
Okay.
and then it goes by rail car and
It's probably
Some
Ohio
state
or Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I think maybe everybody here knows, but I sit on the Mira Dissolution Board, and we're actually struggling with rates at $136.50. And they'll be using some of the Mirror dissolution money reserved to drop that down. But my sense, we will struggle to get to the 110 or the 115. There's even some thought that we can't use the reserve for tipping fees. So one, the decision to go to F&G was a good one. It's being proven out. And the state of Connecticut is struggling with a waste disposal policy. When we closed the burn plant, which is the Mira site, which used to be CRRA and right outside of Brainerd Airport, we lost the ability to really mitigate our own rates and sell electricity. So we are hauling out to Pennsylvania and Ohio, and this is a state problem, not even in particular a Granby problem. So we're going to be at this solution for quite a while. So expect your rates to be pressured each and every year for the next at least 5.
Yep. There are some other opportunities that may come along. I'm sure you and I are going to spend more time on them.
Yep.
Because it is a complicated and a sad situation.
Thank you, Mark. Those are my questions.
I'll go next. Nobody's else is ready. So Kirk, on D116. If you said this, I apologize. So the line item on the town/school tipping fees, part of that is due to dumpsters and trash collected from school buildings and part is from municipal buildings? Or is that all school buildings?
The town school tipping fees, that's all BOE.
All, okay. Okay. All right. I'm sorry?
You question online.
Okay, thanks, just a second. Well, let's go to the, can I give me flash to see?
Oh, Kelly.
Oh, Kelly has a question.
I knew she-
Welcome, Kelly.
Hello. Yeah, just one question. Kirk, and I can't remember when we did it last. For the plowing and the servicing that you do on the private roads, when was the last time you looked at the costs associated with that and increased the fees?
The last time we met with them, Bill was still here. I'm going to say, I can't recall ever meeting when John was here. It's a few years back, and I adjust them every year. I had 2%. And they're still getting a good.
Okay. Okay, as long as we've been looking at that, increasing it as a cost of, that's good.
Thank you.
Mark,
Yes, sir.
question?
Please. Absolutely.
2 questions, actually. So the overtime, if you're adding the full-time individual, you still think you need to bump the overtime?
I go back to Ed O'Hannesy asked me this question. So I'll break it down in a couple different ways. Do you think are you asking me if I think we can cut the overtime a little bit? Possibly. I base it on worst case scenario. I base it on, we're gonna get a winter like we used to of 50 inches, okay? And it evolves all the amount of time. We haven't had that. We've had some flooding, et cetera. But when it comes to winter overtime, what it does is shorten the length of time that we need to be out there. So there is some savings. But like I said, I base it on worst case scenarios all the time. And I can remember going way back where we used to work 200, 250 hours. We're certainly not doing that. We're in the 100, maybe 100 and a quarter. I'd really have to go back. I did look at it the other day, but I don't remember what the number is. So could we do a little bit of cutting? I think we could, but the new employee is more so that we can catch up with the services that we do. In here I wrote somewhere, we're doing approximately 1,200 work orders. That's anything other than road overlay. So a lot of them we're not getting to in timely fashion, or they end up waiting till the next year. And just like any organization, we have people out for various reasons. So I don't know that that necessarily answered your question, but.
Useful answer. That, when you talk about the storms, is it simply because we haven't had the number of storms and the snow that we had, or does it have to do with the difference in the equipment that you have now versus 30, 40 years ago?
The equipment we have is way better than what we had 30 plus years ago. There's no doubt that that capital plan that was put together many years ago really benefited Public Works. But we have to look at it this way. Let's say we had a storm of 6 inches, okay? And whatever time of day it is, when that storm is over, we have 6 to 7 hours left to go before our guys can go home. So they could be working it for a day and a half. And then when that last flight comes down, that's how long it's going to take us to clean up. So the benefit of the other person is certainly we'll be able to cut back on that time. I can't tell you how much that's going to be, but if we have a full craft and a full staff, we're going to see benefit of it. We're going to see benefit of getting some of the jobs done that we haven't had time to do as well.
Okay, last question from me is page 116, the first item, the road maintenance contracts. Is that the ceiling, or is that that outfit that checks the roads?
Under this one, so it'll buy materials that are out, that we try to keep out of the capital, so we don't have to increase it. Also deals, if I remember right, with sidewalks, correct me if I'm wrong, to help us get some repairs done on those as well. So the 2% increase is what I'm asking, and basically everything you see that has anything to do with fuel comes in around 2%. If it's CROG, if it's DAS, so it's a round number that I use. So it covers a multitude of different things, and I didn't break it down, and I didn't bring my other line item.
So it's a bunch of things. It's not
It's a ton.
some contract you have with
No,
whoever.
it's a ton of different things. If we have to buy, so if we had water main cover would be a bad example because that'd be on the district. But if we had to buy a unique basin top or grate or something, we'd take it out of that. Okay? As opposed to,
Is that a new label?
it's been around for a long time. Like I said, there's a lot of things in there, Mike, and I certainly can break it down for you more if you'd like. Maybe using basin parts is not the best example, but
For me, maybe it's just a note for you, Mike, going forward, that we look at that line item and call it something a little different, because I can see why Mike,
Yeah, maybe
I
call
want to know if they're,
purchase orders or
Yeah.
something. Instead of contracts.
yeah.
I think, so that I'm not missing something here, Mark, I apologize for not having the detail on this. So I can certainly provide you or anybody with the detail on it to make sure that I'm not missing something or the contracts are in this. Okay? I understand where you're going. We could
Yeah.
change the name if we wanted an adjustment, but I'd be glad to change that for you. I mean, look, research that for you.
I am comfortable with your answer tonight. If anybody else wants more information, they can reach out to you and get it to me. And then going forward, there'll probably be a lot of these. Does this line exactly, should we call it something different?
Right.
We don't have to get into that tonight.
I'll review it.
Yeah.
You got another question
From who?
from Jenny.
Okay. Jenny, go ahead.
There you go, thank you. And thank you, Kirk, that this has been really useful information, and I kept trying to think of, the only question that I kept coming up with was, how much is it costing us to not fund public works adequately? And I think we're at the stage where we have to ask that question. You don't have to answer it, I wouldn't put you on the spot like that, but it does worry me, and I'm very, very supportive of the refilling that position finally, and possibly more after that. But I appreciate all the data you've been providing, because I think it's very useful.
I'm not sure I heard her question that well. So,
I think it was mostly rhetorical, but I'll give Jenny
Yeah.
the opportunity to ask it again, which is just her.
I think I know where you're going, and I do research some of the items, some of the tasks, some of the assignments that we do. And although the numbers may not be as current as I remember, somewhere, let's just take snow plowing, because that's when it typically comes up. We were plowing snow, don't hold me hard to these numbers, please, but we were plowing snow for about 110 an hour. If you were to go out on state contract, it was around 165, and I think that number is low, and mine might be a little bit low. I've looked at custodial over the years, and I still found it to be a benefit and less expensive. And a lot of this is, we have to take into consideration that we get calls on many things during the day, okay? That some need to be addressed right off the bat. And an example of it is, if a stop sign is hit, if a stop sign goes down, I need to send somebody out there with a temporary sign. If we're paying an outside person to do that, it's gonna take longer and it's gonna cost more money. I can prove it, it's known. So the guys may be assigned a job, there may be 5 assigned a task, but inevitably sometime during that day, somebody has to go off to help with something. It could be a water leak up here. It could be, any one of these jobs that we do on a regular basis. So that would be the hard part to quantify, really hard.
Yeah, but I don't misunderstand me. I have no doubt. I'm concerned that we aren't investing enough in public works, and I appreciate what you and your team do more and more. And the data on the, just thinking about what it takes to run a household and putting the mileage, reference point, I think is very helpful, and I hope some people in the public will listen to it. I certainly plan to share some of the information. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Jenny.
This is a point I agree with Jenny on. Obviously, even if the number of buildings you had to maintain and the size and the length of the roads didn't increase, we know just by the success of the Park and Recs department, right? They're doing a lot more programming in the last few years than they did 3 or 4 years ago. and it's your staff that has to help them get the buildings and the grounds in shape. So there's no doubt in my mind that investing in another person to help you get to it is something the public ought to consider pretty carefully in this budget. So. Anybody else? All right, so quick, you want to address very quickly page
Please.
118, the engineering and wetlands consultants?
This is under my budget, but this is really something that Abby and I do work together with fairly often. And so we'll start engineering services. As you know, we have a part-time. We contract for 10 hours a month at a rate of $120 an hour, which is a very good price. And over the years, we've seen an increase and a need for engineering services. Some of them, and Abby could get better explanation, she's at another meeting right now. Some of them are covered under the cost that the developer has to pay. Hopefully I made that clear, but many are not. And as we get into more and more projects, we need engineering on them. It's not like we used to just take a backhoe and dig a hole anymore. I mean, you have to make sure that you have many approvals. So Kevin is being used quite a bit, and somewhere down the road, we'll probably have to do something. We did meet with an agency not too long ago to possibly, and Mike and I talked a little bit about it, possibly getting somebody on retainer, for lack of a better word, to try and cover some of these projects, especially as we go along with grant monies. Same thing, inlands, wetlands, it's a consultant. Our inlands, wetlands, she left a while ago, can't blame her, full-time position with all sorts of other things to go along with it. And this is at a rate of $720 per month, or 8 to 12 hours per month. We'll be reevaluating, Abby's going to be reevaluating this position because it does involve many, many issues. Certainly wetlands is a concern, and as we know, with the water table rising a bit, the FEMA floodplains are going to change in this town. That may be a little bit, something I shouldn't have said, but they're gonna. And so it's gonna, the dynamics of all that are gonna change. So Abby keeps an eye on it, she monitors the funds, and she'll talk to
Abby?
Mike, all of you. You have regular meetings with Abby, and she'll keep you informed of where we stand in this.
Matter of fact, I think, again, everybody around the table has heard my one-on-one story. That's a meeting that's set up with each department head once a month. It's safe space that we can talk about things that are going on in the department, and I can catch up and they can catch up with some of the decisions that, I'm communicating. In terms of Abby, there are two people that I meet twice a month with. One is Kimmy, because of the finance role, and certainly everything on Abby's plate, she warrants a second meeting. So twice a month, I'll be meeting with Abby and Kimmy.
Before we get to any questions, I'll add a little flavor to these, Mike, because before you came on, I worked pretty closely with Abby with both of these numbers. So I can tell you from my experience in the last year, we are straining our current arrangement on the engineering services well beyond what we can charge to specific projects, because my take is we are doing that at every opportunity that we can. But this year in particular, it's come to light in a number of circumstances. We had a tremendous year for rain and stormwater runoff, and we've had some issues that we've had to address, and the engineer has to look at them and advise us what improvements or changes need to be made. So I was supportive of this modest increase here because I think it's necessary irrespective of the projects we do. If we don't need to spend it, we don't spend it. I also had fairly in-depth discussion with Abby about the wetlands consultant. Because we recently changed and recently entered into that contract, it gave us more room than the previous contract. So Abby was okay with keeping it flat and managing it probably mostly through the fees that they charge for individual applications that come forward. So I was comfortable with both of these recommendations. Anybody else? Any questions? Kirk, thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Are we charging appropriately when we're charging, for those services?
Yeah, I'll try to answer that too as well. So, sort of near the end of my term as the acting town manager before Mike came on, I asked everybody, all the department heads, to analyze every fee we're charging the public, soup to nuts, and got a lot of feedback. There's work for Mike to do, which I'm sure he's probably already on in examining the responses we got back. And I think you heard of a couple of examples where we're naturally doing it. The chief said, I think the other night, he's going to work to increase our private duty fees because he's got the information he needs to do it. So you can rest assured, unless our new town manager drops the ball, that that's a process that we've started. From minor fee to major fees, we're looking at all of them.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
Amber, come on up. To the extent that I had you down for the wrong night, I apologize. I'll take responsibility for it. But...
Calendar is like walking around on my calendar.
Oh, then it's not me. I don't send calendar invites, but thank you. Yeah. All right, so we are going to move to libraries, which starts on page D122. This is your second go around with us, right? You did this last year. You didn't do it. Oh, all right.
Push it off a bit.
Go easy on me.
Let's take 1 second to let your exhibit work its way around. Thank you. Just one, right?
122.
D as a dog, yep. Take it away.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber Weisick, and I am the Director of Library Services for the Granby Public Libraries. I have the pleasure of overseeing the Department of Library Services for our town. This includes both library branches, the main branch and the historical F.H. Cossack branch up in North Granby. Libraries of today are no longer considered just a building of books. They've become vibrant hubs of knowledge and connectivity. They serve as dynamic community centers, providing access to a diverse selection of resources and services. The Granby Public Library offers a variety of materials. This non-extensive list includes a traditional print collection of over 58,000 materials, as well as many cutting-edge digital resources such as access to ebooks, e-audiobooks, e-magazines, streaming video, music, and online databases, all catering to the evolving needs and interests of our patrons. Moreover, libraries serve as technology hubs, offering computer access, internet connectivity, and tech assistance to bridge the digital divide. Beyond that, we host workshops, lectures, cultural events, story times, and more, all fostering lifelong learning and social engagement. In essence, libraries of today are versatile spaces that enrich lives, promote literacy, and empower our community. Your library even offers access to a printer when your home printer runs out of ink, an opportunity to send a fax, or a chance to work from home when your Wi-Fi is out. We welcome everyone of all ages to visit our buildings, use our resources, and participate in our programs. As we like to say, we have something for everyone. Library Services has an annual budget of just over $600,000. This budget currently supports 4 full-time staff members and 13 part-time staff. The part-time library staff play a crucial role in the efficient functioning and accessibility of our libraries. They bring flexibility to library operations, allowing for coverage during peak times and special events. They often bring diverse skills and perspectives to the library team, enriching the overall experience for patrons. Whether providing circulation tasks, assisting with tech support, organizing programs and events, part-time library staff are essential in fulfilling the library's mission of serving the community and promoting literacy and learning. It is these same staff that spend the majority of their work time being at the forefront of serving the public. During a typical year, your library is open 2,440 hours at the main branch and 828 hours at the Cosset branch, all with thanks to our public staff, our part-time staff. In addition to the mentioned staff, the library budget also funds books, audiobooks, movies, magazines, ebooks, e-audiobooks, e-magazines, databases, computers, toys, story times, activity sheets, program equipment, STEM activities, software. I could go on and on. It also funds staff training, consortium membership, and a very small portion of library programs. The remainder of our programming is funded by the Friends and by our Granby Library Association, and some private donors. As you know, I'm still fairly new to this position. My 1-year anniversary is approaching just next month. Along with spending this last year learning about the library staff and what our community wants and needs, I was tasked with reimagining the beloved historical FH Cosset Library to better suit the needs of our community. We investigated other library services and determined the best use of this space was by transforming it into a new space where people could gather, create, and explore. Communities everywhere are seeing that people are starved for connections. We knew we could meet all these needs by converting the lower level into our makerspace and bringing something brand new to our community. Makerspaces are dynamic hubs for creativity, innovation, and hands-on learning. And I'm very excited to announce that tomorrow our makerspace, or the Cosset Creation Station as we like to call it, will be opening up to the public. Happy to add that this project was also made possible all through generous community donations and did not require any additional funding from our budget. Cosset Library is also receiving a transformation on the outside. As you know, we've been working with some grants. In 2022, we hired a restoration company to plan out how we would restore our historical building. In 2023, we completed the first phase with a Hartford Foundation for Public Giving grant. And currently, right now, we are working on the second phase, also using a Hartford Foundation for Public Giving grant. This is the Pomeroy Grace Grant through the Holcomb Foundation that was made specifically for Granby. Upon completion of this phase, we will once again apply for this grant, and the next phase of the grant will repair any damaged wood from the lower level and include a new coat of exterior paint on the entire building. Now, in determining the library budget, I considered a variety of factors to ensure the effective allocation of resources. Firstly, I assessed the current and anticipated needs of the library, including personnel, collections, and technology. I also benchmarked our library against peer institutions and best practices in the field. This helps aid in setting realistic and competitive budgetary targets. Ultimately, the library budget is a product of careful planning, informed decision-making, and effectiveness of available resources. You will notice in this budget there is a considerable increase in part-time wages. This is a direct result of the governor's mandatory wage increases over the last 2 years. Not only has there been 2 large increases since I started, but 2 more increases are expected over the next year. Providing our part-time staff with this fair compensation not only recognizes the importance of their role, but also helps attract and retain talented individuals, fostering a dedicated and motivated workforce. Additionally, adequate wages contribute to the overall well-being of part-time staff, allowing them to support themselves financially and feel valued for their contributions. The library budget is far more than a financial plan. It embodies the commitment of a community to the principles of knowledge, accessibility, and empowerment. Whether investing in collections, technology, personnel, or facilities, every dollar spent reflects a dedication to serving the diverse needs and aspirations of our patrons. Ultimately, a well-considered library budget is a testament to the enduring importance of libraries as vibrant community hubs, enriching lives, fostering learning, and empowering individuals for generations to come. And as I said, you'll notice in this in our page 124, that the biggest increase, or the biggest difference you'll notice is with our part-time staff. And we do believe that it's really important well, obviously we have to stick with the mandatory increases, but we do also believe it's important to provide them with that competitive wage. Any questions?
Any questions here on the table?
I had one on the new creation station, which I think it's an excellent use of the Constant Library building to have something more there than their small collection, to get more people up to use that space. The maker supplies that go with it. I know you said volunteers provided the equipment, but is the increase here covering the additional supplies for the maker?
It will not, there was no increase to supplies for COSIT. We're using all grant funding and donations. Community members have provided volunteer service. So we will be able to provide that whole space without asking for anything additional at this time.
So I have a question and a comment. Amber, under the line, Granby Public Library books, that's not just books, right?
It is not.
So it's e-books and
It's
books
the
in
whole
all of their
collection.
formats?
Yep,
Okay.
it includes books, movies, music, and then all of our digital formats as well.
My comment is, I personally think you did a tremendous job with this budget. You're not only maintaining the services that you're providing our town, but increasing them in a number of areas with a little over a 2% increase, which is less than inflation for all practical purposes. So in terms of doing more with less, I think by definition, you've done it with this budget. So I'm grateful for the work you've done.
Amber, quick question. Interlibrary loans filled per capita. So is that a out-of-town patron coming to your library and finding a periodical that they were looking for, or is there another definition for that?
So interlibrary loans is two different things. It's on one part of it, it is we provide books to 30 plus other libraries in Connecticut. So a patron in Bristol may be looking for a book that the Bristol Public Library doesn't have, but we do. So we will send it to Bristol for them.
And the van still comes around and you put it on the van and...
Exactly. So every day
And
we
how do you get it back? I always wondered, how do you get that book back?
the same van.
Okay.
So they bring in 2 bins with our books and they take 2 bins for other
Got it.
libraries, and there's that van that just travels all around the state.
And how is it that you're one of the higher? It almost seems contradictory, like we're low on materials, but people borrow a lot of stuff from us.
Well, we pride ourselves in our collection development. So we, personally, I spend a lot of time knowing what patrons want, looking at bestsellers, and just making sure our collection is top notch.
That shows in the numbers. Thank you.
Jenny or Kelly?
I'm all set, thank you. I'm all set also.
Last chance here. Mike? Anybody?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Amber. Get to that library board meeting. So that completes the scheduled discussions for tonight. Going to public comment. You guys, is there anything you guys want to share? Come on up. You can come sit at the table.
No, I can't. I would.
Well, you got to get in your microphone.
I actually had a question for Amber, but I will just make a statement instead, and that is I really, as a member of this town, I do greatly appreciate the services that the library provides, and I've started to read some of the literature on what they're doing at COSIT. I'm just amazed. It sounds very, very good.
Well, thank you. Anybody else on Zoom? Want to address this in public comment? Okay, we'll close the public session. Anybody around the table have anything before we adjourn? get you to your Yukon game. And I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you Thursday night.